Hello and welcome to Drama Recaps. Today we're delving into the 2017 biographical crime drama film named Loving Pablo. Spoilers ahead. Based on a true story. In 1993, Colombian journalist Virginia had just landed in America, shielded by the Drug Intelligence Agency due to her involvement in drug trafficking. She was transported to a secret hotel as one of Pablo's key confidants prepared to divulge critical information to the U.S. government. Her journey to America was crucial, and her safety was of utmost importance, warranting stringent intelligence protection. Going back to 1981, we see a plane with Virginia and a friend arrive in Colombia for a party to celebrate the founding of Pablo Escobar's philanthropic society. They are met by Pablo Escobar along with his guards. He tells them not to be afraid, as guns are for animals because they have a zoo. Next, they all come together to see the elephants. The party is a grand affair, attracting many high-profile guests, including a newscaster named Virginia, who attends with a friend. The high security and opulence make Virginia question Pablo Escobar's identity and the source of his wealth. As it turns out, Pablo has been observing Virginia on her TV program. Their conversation at the party revolves around the opening of a project to build 2,000 homes for the poor. When asked about the source of funding, Pablo evades the question, suggesting Virginia witness the construction herself. The following day, Virginia, along with her TV crew, visit the Moravia Modlin village, a junkyard on the outskirts. Pablo is received warmly by the locals, with many children even sharing his name. During the interview, Pablo expresses his deep concern for the destitute in the area. To Virginia's surprise, she found herself becoming oblivious to the dubious origins of Pablo's wealth as their bond deepened. At the restaurant, Pablo informs Virginia that he cannot date a married woman. Afterwards, Pablo resolves the issue with his husband, and Virginia becomes free. She even received an invitation to a clandestine gathering where discussions about drug trafficking into America were being held. At this gathering, Pablo introduced Virginia to his cartel allies with great pride. Virginia was well aware of the people she was mingling with, the mighty Colombian mafia. Surprisingly, instead of feeling fear, she felt safe in their company. She was even more captivated when she observed Pablo directing his associates during their meeting. During this session, Pablo divided the territories for their illicit trade. He declared that his Medellin cartel would take control of Florida while the Cali cartel would manage operations in New York State. After this territorial division, there was a strange incident in Florida. A large truck was intentionally blocking the freeway, causing a massive traffic jam. The disgruntled public couldn't do anything as the truck driver threatened them with a gun. This created the perfect diversion for Pablo's men to land a plane, swiftly transporting the illicit goods to safety. Even though abandoning the plane might seem costly, it was peanuts compared to the massive revenue generated by the drug-laden aircraft. Within just a year, Escobar's drug trade from Colombia to America skyrocketed. Reports suggested that 80% of the drugs in America were coming from Colombia. This alarming statistic prompted the President of the United States to step in and devise a strategy to combat the crisis. A DEA agent named Separt was summoned, alongside a representative from Colombia. However, immediate action within Colombia was hindered due to the numerous bribed officials and judges. As a solution, they proposed to revive the extradition treaty, enabling the arrest and prosecution of criminals in the United States. This plan didn't escape the ears of Pablo's group. Pablo decided that he needed to penetrate the political world, aiming to nullify this agreement once he gained political power. Pablo began funding candidates for the People's Representative Council, under the condition that he also be included as a senator. The candidates agreed due to the substantial financial support, and eventually, they were elected. Pablo was now poised to step into the political arena, representing Medellin. On July 20, 1982, Pablo officially entered the office of the People's Representatives in the capital. Meanwhile, Virginia was preparing to appear on a television show hosted in America. Because of his deep affection for Virginia, Pablo lavished her with gifts, including a stack of money for lunch and an expensive necklace. Meanwhile, Pablo tells his son about the dangers of illegal substances. However, While in America, she was approached by a government agency, represented by Agent Shepard, regarding her connection with Pablo and the rampant drug trade largely originating from Colombia. Virginia boldly defended Pablo, stating that he was the people's chosen representative and redirected the agent to directly approach the CIA. Meanwhile, a special meeting was being held where a justice minister proposed to suspend Pablo's appointment. He believed that Pablo's drug money had no place in the Senate. Ironically, this same justice minister had previously been funded by Pablo for his campaign. This public humiliation by the justice minister enraged Pablo, who challenged him to provide proof of his allegations. From the outset, Victoria had warned Pablo against venturing into politics, fearing exposure of his drug operations. Pablo, however, remained unyielding, believing that those in the government also had secrets to hide. Disturbing news arrived. A newspaper backing the justice minister revealed Pablo's role in killing 2 cops. His associate, paid to erase the evidence, squandered the money on revelry instead. Upon being caught, he was gruesomely tortured and murdered. Driven by vengeance and the need to act before the justice minister obtained evidence against him, Pablo and his cartel decided to assassinate both the justice minister and the journalist who had written against him. One of the Cali cartel members advised Pablo to reconsider, as such a move could further complicate matters. However, Pablo was adamant, prepared for a potential war with the government. The next day, Virginia and Pablo meet at a restaurant. Pablo hands her a box with a gun and tells her to keep it with her. He hints that they will come for her because of her connection with him. Virginia begins to cry. On the very same day, assassinations were carried out on a crowded street, killing both the justice minister and the driver. Virginia, who happened to be on the scene, reported these shocking events live. She also announced that the president was reinstating the extradition treaty and declaring war on Pablo's drug empire. On May 29, 1984, Pablo and his cartel attempted to negotiate with the government, proposing that they could assist the country in paying off its foreign debts. In exchange, he demanded amnesty for past crimes and the annulment of the extradition treaty. The government representatives, however, declined this proposal. As a result, Pablo declared war on the government. That night, Pablo visited Virginia and explained the current situation, declaring his intent to continue his fight against the extradition agreement. Understandably, Virginia was taken aback. As the situation escalated, Pablo found himself fighting not just an organization but the entire government. He was advised to back down and avoid the conflict, yet his resolve remained unshaken. After the refusal of amnesty, Pablo escalated his actions, threatening and terrorizing anyone who dared to oppose him. He sent a chilling message by delivering a coffin to a judge who died of a heart attack upon hearing it was from Pablo Escobar. The government responded by offering a reward of 1 billion pesos for Pablo's capture. Unperturbed, Pablo enlisted his followers' support, arming them and offering lucrative rewards for the lives of law enforcement officers. The city descended into chaos, with rampant shootings and violence. In retaliation, the government ordered the extermination of suspected sicarios, young cartel hitmen. Responding to the escalating violence, they formed a special unit, partnering with the DIA to hunt Pablo, tapping all Colombian phone lines. Virginia is then fired from television because she is communicating with Pablo. Virginia is upset and leaves. Agent Shepard says she won't be hired anywhere else on television. In exchange for helping to catch Pablo, they are willing to provide protection. Virginia says Pablo will find her anywhere. At this point, it turns out that there is someone on the street following them. During this time, Virginia confronted Pablo about the havoc his actions had wreaked on her life, leading to her termination from her job due to her association with him. Feeling that Pablo had ruined her career and isolated her from many, Virginia decided to sever all ties with Pablo, wanting no more involvement in his life. Their phone conversation, however, proved to be a lead for the DIA, who traced Pablo's location and deployed a special ops team to apprehend him. But Pablo's team was prepared and managed to launch a counterattack, destroying one of the helicopters. Concurrently, Pablo's ally in the Cali cartel was captured and shot on the spot, and the men who were with Pablo in the jungle were killed. Pablo, however, managed to escape. A few days later, Pablo escalated his campaign of terror by using explosives, detonating a commercial airliner and sending shockwaves through the government. Amid the constant terror and explosions ravaging the city, the government finally decided to negotiate with Pablo. He agreed to surrender under the conditions that the extradition be deactivated and he be allowed to design his own prison. On June 19, 1991, Pablo officially surrendered and was incarcerated in a prison of his own design. This prison was nothing like typical facilities, it was more akin to a luxurious apartment or home, complete with sports fields and the freedom to throw parties with prostitutes. With extradition no longer a threat, Pablo was free to continue managing his drug operations from within his prison. His family visited him every week, turning his incarceration into something resembling family time. The harsh reality of his situation hit him one day when he wasn't allowed to leave prison to buy his daughter's favorite ice cream. Meanwhile, Virginia found herself in dire straits. She had sold all her possessions and furniture to sustain her life. Ostracized by the TV stations and society, she approached Pablo for protection and $80,000 to move to Europe. However, Pablo declined, seeing Virginia as a potential threat who could expose everything she knew about him. Left with no job, no support, and no possessions, Virginia was completely desolate. One night, Pablo met with his friends from the Cali Cartel to discuss the sales results that didn't meet the original agreement. They explained that business wasn't as it used to be, and smuggling goods into America had become increasingly challenging. Unmoved, Pablo demanded his usual share of the profits. When they refused, they were killed mercilessly. News of these killings reached the press. The government decided to transfer him to a military prison, but before they could, Pablo managed to escape on July 20, 1992. The discovery revealed that Pablo's rival cartels and ex-business partners, implicated in several government officials' murders, were working with the government in hopes of charge dismissal. Even Virginia had a narrow escape from an assassination attempt, saved only by bulletproof glass. Cornered and desperate, Virginia finally agreed to cooperate with the government agency. She divulged Pablo's weakness, his love for his wife and children, the most precious things in his life. Meanwhile, Pablo, hidden away, spent time with his children. Fearing the worst, he proposed they all leave Colombia immediately. Unfortunately, as they arrived at the airport, the intelligence intercepted them and directed them to an airport hotel. Pablo, who saw the news, was furious and immediately called his wife. However, it was a trap set by the government. Next to his wife's room, there were partitions, agents, and monitoring equipment to listen in on their conversations. They also tried to triangulate Pablo's phone signal. As the hours passed, Pablo became increasingly anxious for his family's safety. Aware that if he made another call, his location could be discovered, he was torn between his safety and the well-being of his family. The feared and ruthless drug lord couldn't bear the worry about his children. Ignoring his safety, he made a call just to hear his child's voice. It was at this moment that the intelligence traced Pablo's location and began to mobilize their troops. During the call, Pablo instructed his son to inform the media that the prosecution had not kept its promise to allow his family to leave the country. This betrayal echoed their previous unkept promise to safeguard Pablo's family upon his surrender. Before the call ended, Pablo urged his son to take the responsibility of protecting his sister and mother. Soon after this call, Pablo was shot dead.
I loved Pablo. I hate Escobar.